It is hard to speak about Wild Hearts without referencing its obvious inspiration, the Monster Hunter series. But while the latest release of Monster Hunter Rise and Wild Hearts have a lot in common, the latter, in a way, feels like the generational jump we have so desperately needed from the genre for years now. Everything about Wild Hearts feels so much more impressive. From a technical point of view, the game skyrockets past the Monster Hunter series and sadly kind of makes it feel a little dated. So much so that I was actually playing Rise right before I got a review code for Wild Hearts, and I don't see myself going back to it anytime soon. Wild Hearts is a monster hunting game from the studio that brought you the Neo and the Turrican series. While the idea of hunting monsters does take the center stage in the game, it's a much more layered experience than anything I'd had before. For starters, Wild Hearts features a pretty fantastic story that was woven into everything I did. I started the game as a nameless hero who by chance stumbles across a strange masked man that imbued me with the power of celestial thread. This thread is a magical substance that feeds into almost everything around the world. With this power to control this thread, my hunter, who you'll be able to make from scratch at the start of the game, obtains the power to craft objects called karakuri. These karakuri can be spun into the world from thin air thanks to the celestial thread. This thread also plays a big role in the game's story and explains why these strange monsters have started to spin out of control. Of course, I won't spoil that for those who are looking to play the game. As a hero/hunter person with magical powers to make cool things, the idea of Wild Hearts sets itself into motion. In order to save the land and bring back life to the main city, I had to set off across various gorgeous locations to hunt down beasts known as kimono and kill them. Wild Hearts features a handful of weapons which many of you might be familiar with. There's a sword, an umbrella that can parry attacks, a maul that transforms into all sorts of weird and wonderful weapons, a giant hammer and more. But while a giant hammer might sound like the cliche weapon here, it is actually far from it. In fact, Wild Hearts' experience isn't really just about pummeling things to the ground using weapons. It is about using the tools I made called karakuri to turn the battlefield into my very own playground. Now I can't stress enough how exciting this actually is. Karakuri adds so many dimensions to the combat in Wild Hearts that it's impossible to play the game without them. There are dozens of them and they come in all different shapes and forms. To make things even more exciting, combining different built karakuri together even results in a whole different one appearing. If I was fighting a crazed giant chicken named Dreadclaw, I would wait for him to fly up into the air and quickly build 6 fire torches which would transform into a firework. The firework would then shoot into the air and explode, resulting in this giant flash bringing Dreadclaw to the ground. Keep in mind that these fire torches were also handy for setting my weapon on fire in case I was fighting a kimono which was weak to fire. Of course, this is just one example. Others include using a spring, which is great to leap off of in order to smash the monster or get out of harm's way, and a lantern to create a star bomb. These star bombs are giant landmines that trigger after a few seconds. There are also massive mallets to build, automatic crossbows, healing items, and more. The list goes on. The more I played, the more exciting combinations I encountered, which in turn created new ways to fight monsters. And that only covers the so-called basic karakuri. There are also dragon karakuri, which are more permanent structures I could build across each map. These came in the form of camps, fishing wells, shrines which gathered materials, food racks to dry out my food for buffs, large wind turbines to travel around on, and full modes of transport and more. As Wild Hearts expands, so do the karakuri. Early in the game I was limited in the number of items I could build around each location. However, late in the game these limitations lifted and I could really go all out, crafting the perfect battlefield. Of course, these karakuri also helped me getting around. Grappling points let me shoot myself up to the top of a mountain, only to leap off, smashing into my target. Not to mention, you still have your weapons which are also transformed during combat. They too benefit from these karakuri. Leaping off a spring will trigger a completely different attack pattern with each weapon. A glider, which is also great for flying up into the air, helped me get above the action and at times avoid heavy attacks. Best of all, this felt so incredibly fun to do. I got around much quicker and found new karakuri which all opened new exciting doors to venture through when it came to building, crafting and attacking. The general combat in Wild Hearts is familiar. Even with the karakuri, you can't get away from the fact that like other hunting games on the market, you're still fighting a powerful beast. My favorite weapon to use is no doubt the hammer. Like most of the other weapons in the game, the hammer also relied on timing my attacks and transforming it at the right time. I would hit the beast with the square button and press the R2 trigger at the right time to extend its hilt. I could do this a few times and every successful trigger would result in more damage, a longer combo, and ultimately a final blow. The greatsword let me hold down R2 to charge up my attacks instead of extending the combo. The maul transformed into a weapon after every successful attack and R2 trigger. I would then build up a bar and unleash a powerful over-the-top slam. You'll probably only gel with a few weapons in Wild Hearts, and that's okay. Some just didn't feel like they were my playstyle. The monsters, also known as kimono in Wild Hearts, come in all shapes and sizes. They all put up a fight, and while some are fun to fight, some definitely borderline frustrating too. They all have parts you can break off and weaknesses to exploit. My weapons, the karakuri, and the environment around me all contributed to the fights in the game. Kimono also transform during combat when they enter their enraged mode. Attack patterns change as a result, and I had to force myself to be extra careful when moving about and attacking. It goes without saying that Wild Hearts also has a robust gear system which is linked to the materials you'll find from the kimono. The outfits look great, and the gear system let me further tweak things by deciding on a human path or a kimono path for each piece of gear. Different parts would unlock different skill effects across a wide variety of items, so it opens a lot of room for exploring different build types. But as fun as Wild Hearts is, I have to mention the issues. The game is fantastic from a technical point of view. Each map location is bigger than any other monster hunting game in the past. These biomes are also incredibly detailed with dozens of animals running around, ecosystems that change throughout the game, and secrets to discover everywhere. It is the most ambitious game in the genre without a doubt, but it's also an eyesore to look at times. Even on the PC version maxed out, the game just looks rough. The draw distance is very low, the textures look unpolished, and even monsters are hard to stomach. One particular monster, the lava back, is barely recognizable during fights as its body blurs while it moves around, and causes a weird jittering issue on screen. Even disabling motion blur didn't fix this issue. Wild Hearts also possibly has the worst camera I've ever experienced in a game. It is way too close to the player, which results in clipping in almost every single battle. Every time I was pushed into a wall, the camera would clip into it, or worse, into my character, and I would not be able to see what I was doing. The camera distance is also incredibly close to the player. Even using certain weapons like the hammer, it would get in the way of the monster view and I'd not be able to see it coming towards me. The game desperately needs a camera overhaul. There are also some horrible issues with hitboxes. Sure, this came in handy when I was able to hit my monster by not technically hitting it, but I would also suffer from unwanted damage because of a wonky hitbox. Wild Hearts is ambitious, but its technical aspects need a little bit of work. It was great seeing giant trees falling to the ground during fights with the King Tusk, but when it hit me out of nowhere, it was just annoying. I'm just saying that you'll need a little bit of patience in Wild Hearts to overlook its rough visuals and its technical issues. Another big one is the load times. I don't think I've sat and waited for a game to load in years now. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds to load up a hunt. It might sound like I'm being a brat about this, but we are now in 2023 with SSDs that load so fast they can make your head spin. No game should have 20-second load times. For the first time in years, I found myself picking up my phone and going onto Twitter while Wild Hearts took its jolly time loading. But after countless hours with Wild Hearts, I can't find fault in its core gameplay. Hunting is enjoyable, and taking down kimono with my weapons and karakuri was strangely familiar, but at the same time so refreshing. With a robust lineup of free content headed to the game, I am invested in this experience now and can't wait to see where it goes next. Wild Hearts might have a few rough edges, but there's a lot of potential for this to become the next gen monster hunting game we so desperately need. So those are my thoughts on Wild Hearts. Huge thanks to EA for sending this code through to me for review. Are you looking to pick this game up? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, please do consider liking and subscribing for more future content, and visit www.glitch.online for more gaming and tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.